Now let's delve into the power of creativity. Now, I'm sure other people out there are having the same thought they've had with other topics. Well, what's creativity got to do with psychic ability? Well, the reality is lots. Simple truth is that a lot of what we're dealing with psychic ability is very similar to creativity. Just looking at the simple basics, we're using something we don't necessarily understand fully to create something more, to create an effect that has an impact on the world around us. And when we look at it, isn't that what creativity is also? It's something we don't really understand that makes us feel alive and happy and creates things that impact the world around us. After all, we've had a lot of creative people that have created powerful images and poems and movies that have touched the lives of everyone who watches or sees or interacts. Well, that's rather profound and powerful, and yet it's so simple. And yet psychic ability is no real different than that. It's profound, it's powerful, and yet at the end of the day, the basics of it are rather simple. Now, I always like to recommend that everyone have some creativity in their life, because I really do believe it's as important as breathing or eating or shelter. It's a need. And I really feel that that's one of the big reasons we don't trust ourselves, is because we've locked off these kind of abilities, because we won't unleash our creativity or imagination. Well, what else do we hide from ourselves? What other things are we not prepared to deal with? And so it creates a domino effect, of which lack of trust is the end result. So creativity is one of those things we need more of, not less. Now, creativity itself, if we want to look at it in more in-depth form, we could kind of see that it is very similar to a psychic ability. We could actually even include it under our accurate definition of that word. After all, the muse itself is something that comes from outside of the physical body that creates a defined effect, that, creates art, music, poems, even the way that people take pictures or the way that they produce the pictures to create different effects. I mean, those are all defined effects. They're all impacting the body, mind, and world around us, pretty much all three. And they are from exterior of the physical form, physical body. But that doesn't mean to say that muse itself is a psychic ability, just that parts of it do relate very well. After all, creativity is a natural part of the body. We've been creative probably our entire existence, just don't always realize it. Creativity is one of those things that can hide in simple things too, like how we choose to dress, or how we choose to present ourselves, how we talk with our hands. Those are all forms of creativity. We can decide how we want to eat, what kind of food we want to eat, the colors, the textures, the smells. We can cook them in different ways, present them in different ways. These are all forms of creativity. We can choose to brush our teeth imaginatively. We can choose to wash our face with flair and pizzazz. All are forms of creativity. Everything you can imagine is, well, creativity. That's what creativity is, after all. The creation of something through imagination. Now, that's a pretty broad thing. We can do anything. Now, I know, lots of people, it was very common that you'd see people doodling while they're talking on the phone or while riding the bus or something, make notes or sketches or stuff. You see people at the park taking doodles or photographs or whatever. And these are all great things because they're creativity. But we don't always have to do everything big, right? We can do the small too. The big is there, the small is there, use them both. But what's more important out of all of that is creativity. It opens doors. After all, creativity, effectively, you're using something you don't understand to create something. And that does require trust. And really, that's what we're here to do, is to build a tremendous amount of trust in ourselves. So if we're afraid of our own imagination, what hope do we have of developing any kind of ability? And the simple reality too, when you look at it deeper, every one of the techniques and tools and tips about how to develop ability and how to help it grow or understand it more, that all requires imagination. How to decide, okay, this ability, I need to create a specific end effect. How do I go about that? that's what imagination is. And every scientist on the planet will tell you that, because they fully understand that it takes a lot of creativity and imagination to come up with clinical trials, to come up with tests and ways of checking things to see if they add up. After all, not everything you can do the same standard things on. And, well, that's not a bad thing. So creativity also helps to open those doors to help you, if you're developing your own abilities, to figure out new ways to further develop those abilities. And that's a pretty powerful thing. But even going deeper than that, most of us, when we get into creative endeavors, we feel alive. We feel free. It's like the bonds of the physical body just simply evaporate for that moment, that we almost take on another life or go somewhere else. And that's a wonderful feeling. And it also helps recharge us and make us feel stronger and more vitalized. And well, if you're dealing with any kind of ability, like I said, you got to have the power to make it work. And well, that is a form of power. The raw energy that we have, the life that courses through our veins, that's another form of power that we really need. The more alive we feel, obviously, the more we're going to be able to do. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychically, all of it. Because we have the resources to do it. And that's an amazing power of creativity, is it opens that door. It allows us to do that. And again, say it again and again and again, it does allow us to build trust. That single aspect alone would make creativity well worth its weight in gold. It's absolutely worth the endeavor and attempt just for that. But of course, just the fact that it also makes us feel alive and revitalized and capable of living our own lives in everything that we come across, can't beat that either. So creativity really is a powerful tool. It's so powerful, in fact, that I think most of us have become terrified of it in some form. It's fine when other people do it, but we've become afraid of doing it ourselves. And as I said, that's one of the reasons we don't trust ourselves. We don't like what we see when we look in the mirror because, well, we just don't trust our imagination. We don't believe that our imagination is not going to hurt us. Well, and yeah, imagination certainly does have some negative side effects like nightmares, and we can watch scary movies and our imagination kicks into overtime and we see phantoms at every corner. But at the end of the day, isn't that wonderful too? Some of that, don't we feel alive after? Like, if we don't let our imagination get too far away, it feels pretty cool after. It's like the exhilaration of the roller coaster ride. When it's done, it's not scary anymore, and it was kind of fun in retrospect, even though we might have been not so happy in the middle. But that's the point, right? So imagination, yeah, it can cause some unpleasant things, but at the end of the day, it's all yours to control. It's your imagination after all. And just as easily as you can imagine the big scary things after watching a horror movie, you can imagine the big scary things being tickled by clowns if you so choose. That's the great power of imagination. It's yours. So why not go out and try and do something creative? Even if you used to do something that you haven't done in a while, go do it. If not, try something new. It doesn't matter how it ends up. It doesn't matter what it looks like or what the critics are going to think. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it purely for you, to feel alive and revitalized and energized, and to trust yourself. So go out and do something creative and have some fun with it. After all, it's your imagination. Let it run wild a little bit once in a while. It'll love you for it, and it'll be there when you want it. It'll make your life more interesting. So go play. Have fun with it.